Hey adventurers, so today is going to be a book review for Within the Sanctuary of Wings by Marie Brennan. This is the final book in the Lady Trent Memoirs series, and let's get right into it. I don't actually own a copy of this book, so we'll have a fake image up there for you to see. So of course this is a fantasy and a high fantasy and dragon fantasy and lots of other subgenres of fantasy, as with all fantasy books, but this series has worked really well for me. The focus on a character, or on a character who just likes to look at dragons and likes to study dragons and learn about dragons. It's so cool and it's so interesting. So this is the final book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, and what a finale it is. I went into this last book expecting one thing and even looking forward to that thing, and then ended up getting something completely different and even better. So I think I get more into that in a little bit, so I'll just leave it there. The author has not hid the fact that throughout the background of these books, there's this main plot line that's going on in the front, in the foreground of her going and studying, of Isabella going and studying a dragon, or a place with dragons and stuff like that. But behind that, there's this underlying epic that is being built up. So the author hasn't hid the fact that throughout the background of these books, she has slowly written an epic. I thought it was going to revolve around the politics and wars that were happening, or maybe something to do with the draconian ruins that provide basically the secondary plot line of each novel. And while I wasn't completely wrong, it was a ways away from the answer. I did not at all know what to expect, or what was going to happen when I started reading this book. I was really excited for this very political ending of all these wars and politics and everything mixed with this draconian ruins and how that's going to affect things. And then you get into the book and you're like, wow, I was not expecting that at all, and it was really cool. Once again, in this book we go to a new location and spend time studying a new culture, but what that means is drastically different than you could expect without reading the book, as well as from the other 4 books in the series. So it's not only is it drastically different than anything you could guess without reading the book, but it's also drastically different than any of the 4 previous books, is what I'm trying to say there. The implications that result, the politicking, everything about it worked so well. There was, and I'll get to this again in the end, the ending wraps up really quickly, just like the other 4 books in the series, but the repercussions of what this thing could mean is very interesting. I was really hoping we'd get some more explanation and discovery of the ancient civilization known as the Draconians, but there was honestly far more than I was expecting of that. The one thing I will say as a negative for this whole series is their endings. Not that they are bad or that they don't stick the landing or anything of the sort. I just wish that there was a bit more time for falling action and de-escalation. We never really get to see a ton of the aftermath of what happens after these discoveries are made. That being said, when you think about the way that these books are written, they are written as memoirs to people who already live in the world and know the situation and how things played out. So technically it wouldn't be needed, because as people living in the world, they can see, oh, we know what's happening now because we are living in the now. We don't have to see how that all plays out. If these books were written to us on Earth and not in this fantasy world, then it would be something completely different. You would have to go into more detail about all that, how everything was affected and stuff like that. So this is a brilliant series, easily a favorite of mine at this point. It's simple, it's fun and interesting for someone like me who loves dragons, who loves learning about dragons and learning the science behind how they would work. Book 1, you learn that part of how the dragons fly is when they lift their wings up. I mean, it's a big wing. It has to be able to make it through the air. What happens is the scales on the bottom of the wing, they open up and allow the air to flow through, and then as the wings go back down, they close, allowing that amount of lift that you would need to lift the dragon off into the air. And it's just the little science things like that. You learn different things about the different dragons throughout all the series, and it's so cool. The greatest strength of this series, though, lies in the fact that it treats dragons, and the whole premise of the series, in fact, is that dragons are just a part of the natural world. As normal as birds or fish or dogs or bugs or anything, it's just a part of the world. It just happens to be a part of the world that is less studied and less understood at this time. that premise works so well, especially for someone like me who loves dragons as the magical beings that they usually are, but also loves to learn about things. How and why do they work the way they do? So that question of what makes a dragon tick, how does the science behind a dragon actually work, is so interesting for me, not only because I love the magical beings that dragons can be, but I also love dragons as a force of nature, whether that means they're the massive dragon that takes up a huge amount of space, or they're just a part of the natural world and you have to deal with them. They're pests in some cultures, they can be trained to do some things in some cultures. It's just so interesting. I've enjoyed each book more than the last, and this final book in the series is no different. I highly recommend the series, especially if you like dragons. So that is my review for Within the Sanctuary of Wings by Marie Brennan. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday and have our social medias linked in the description down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.